Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition, another segment of At Home with the Gamecocks presented by Ford. Today, we visit with Greg Harley, member of Jacksonville State's tennis program back in the mid-'80s. A few days ago that Greg was part of the program at Jacksonville State, and we're going to talk with him about his career and his career at this point in time. Greg, thanks for joining us in the midst of the pandemic and everything. I hope and I assume that everything is good with you and your family.
It's going really well, Mike, under the circumstances, and I'm so happy to be here with you today.
All right. So you're an Atlanta native, came to Jacksonville State in the mid-'80s. How did all that happen? How did it, Walton High School to Jacksonville State, how did that occur?
You know, it's not that glamorous of a story. I had a good friend named Keith Nix that played at another school in Cobb County. I honestly didn't know that much about Jacksonville State, and he'd been over there a year, and he said, Greg, you got to come over here. This place is great. I went over for a visit, pretty much fell in love with it from day one. And, here I am 40 years later, just about, and nothing's changed. So basically, I got recruited by a friend who was playing over there already.
Well, and it's turned into, I guess, a long-time love affair. We can use the tennis term there, if you will, in the fact that you're involved and follow all of our sports, football, basketball, and everything. And you started, I guess, when you were in school here with that, right?
Yeah, I became a big fan, early on. I know you remember it, Mike. My freshman year, we went 31-1 in basketball and had the great Keith McKellar, Robert Spurgeon, Earl Warren, Pat White, just a phenomenal basketball team. And it was so much fun. I mean, the Pete was packed and, that just led one thing to another. And I really became passionate about JSU sports, and it's really has never changed. I'll say probably back in the early 2000s, I started really getting enthusiastic about the football program, and I just love it.
You played for Steve Bailey, and he's had a significant impact upon your life through the years.
Oh, man. I mean, you talk about sometimes you just get lucky, and I was so lucky to get to play for 4 years under Coach Bailey. He's a great tennis coach. He ran a great program. I mean, I don't think that the records and the wins that he had in his career at JSU is ever going to be matched. But, Mike, as I've shared with you before, all the tennis stuff aside, Coach Bailey is a great person. He's a great leader of people. He's a person you want to be around. And he just made my 4 years at JSU so much fun. And, you just wanted to play for him. I've shared with you before, we would have guys that would see from other teams that would see the rapport we had, and they would contact Coach Bailey about possibly transferring and stuff. And, he just really built a powerhouse program. Unfortunately, the years I were there, we were not very good. But towards the end of that, and then on into the 90s and 2000s, I mean, he just racked up the conference titles left and right.
Go back to those days, and as he finished up his career just a few years back, off the court, very calm, just even mild-mannered, I guess might be the best way to put it. And I know that he probably had some moments where the bear in him came out a little bit there, if you will, and maybe he let you know how he felt about something. But playing for a guy like that, I guess that makes it a little bit easier when you know what you're going to get every day when you go to practice or in matches and whatnot.
Oh, well, you got a guy that is going to support you 100% and views you as a person and not just some sort of, means to an end. But, Mike, with all that being said, he was a great motivator, man. He would get us so fired up for matches. He'd push you to be your best. And even though I would definitely categorize him as what they, call a player's coach, he knew how to push the right buttons and get the most out of us. We worked hard and we loved winning. And, obviously you don't get the number of wins that he had over the course of his long career without, knowing how to push the right buttons. And I think, let me add one thing to that. And I think one thing he appreciated about tennis, and golf's probably the same way. Look, those are individual sports, even though you're playing in a team environment, and one size doesn't fit all. The button that you push to motivate this player will not be the same as another player. And Steve understood that and wouldn't try to do a one size fit all approach. And I think that's one of the big reasons he had so much success at JSU.
You're a very successful lawyer, prestigious law firm in Atlanta. I'm practicing law for a long time. But you got to induct your former head coach into the Hall of Fame last year. How big of an honor was that for you to be able to do that?
Oh, man, Mike. And I hope I don't make any of my former teammates that might check this broadcast out, jealous or anything. But that was that meant everything to me that that Coach Bailey picked me to do that, out of all the folks that have come through over the years. I was just touched, and you saw there at the end of when I inducted him, I was a little bit emotional because, you just look back in life and you have, the older you get, maybe a little more perspective. And I'm like, God, what a blessing that the good Lord sent me when I show up there in the mid 80s at Jack State, and I meet this man that's a friend, a mentor, a coach, and made a big part of what I was doing at the time, just a great experience. And you talk to so many people that played sports, and not everybody has that experience. So it's definitely not something you can take for granted. So, oh man, like I said, just an absolute huge honor to get to be part of that ceremony for Coach Bailey. The biggest problem is I couldn't tell a lot of the stories I really wanted to tell because it was a family audience.
We can't do that here either. We'll let those go.
Exactly.
When you come back to campus now, what's it like coming back from the time that you were there in the 80s to see what's been done at football and the changes at the Pete and baseball and even the upgrades at tennis as well? What, as an alum, what's that mean to you? How does it make you feel?
Mike, now let me tell you, I loved it, but we've gone from a Motel 6 to a Marriott. Where was all this stuff when I was there? The baseball stadium is new. The basketball's still in the same building, but I think it's an absolute beautiful facility. We've got the best football facility in FCS, certainly, and I think it would rival a lot of what you see in the non-Power 5. So it is all my compliments to Greg Seitz and all the people that have made that stuff happen. It's phenomenal, and I'm so glad we have those, just wonderful facilities. I think some of these guys today should have to go back and see what it was like in the old days.
I'm not sure they want to do that. I'll just leave it at that, okay? We got to wrap this up here, running out of time. Did you always want to get into law, or is that something that getting into college led you into law school?
Yeah, Mike, I hadn't thought a ton about it during my time at JSU, but I guess towards the end, and I actually took a year off. I spent a couple weeks selling beer at the Braves game, and I said that wasn't a good career. That wasn't what I wanted to do. Too hard. And plus, they were terrible at the time. So it's hard to find people to sell it to. But anyway, I just thought, right when I got out, I liked the intellectual challenge of the law. And I'm a competitive person, and it's certainly been an outlet for that over the years. I'm so fortunate to have the career that I've had, and I'm so thankful to my professors at JSU and everybody that, was there for me back then to give me the foundation I needed to have to be successful.
Well, I know you're probably working on a case or two right now, and you got to get back to work. I appreciate your time. Thanks for visiting with us, and hope to see you real soon, okay? Well,
I appreciate it, Mike. It's great to be here today, and like all the Gamecock Nation, we're about to dive for the sports to start back and for you hear you calling the games.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. See you down the
Okay,
road. Greg
thanks.
Harley, product of Jacksonville State tennis program, our guest on At Home with the Gamecocks, presented by Ford.